Hello guys, let me first start with wishing you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thanking you very much for supporting this channel and making this purchase, and I hope you're going to consider this in the future. This reading is going to consist of two parts. First part, important one though, even though it seems to be kind of like a little bit generic. Why is it important? They're general energies. So what does that mean? So let's say we want what we want, right? Let's say we want to buy tiles for the bathroom. So we know what we want to buy, we know our budget and everything else. So we kind of like know our little domain. But there is like a bigger picture. Who is the supplier? What can be done? So you have to work within that system. And this is like what this part is going to tell us. I also drew a rune just to give me basically some kind of like feel for it, and we are going to go in few other cards. These like really important decks. This is Osho Zen. He's like a famous I believe Japanese philosopher. We have karma cards and we have law of attraction. So for example, right, if you for example want to win lottery and you want to send those vibrations out and you have all the negative people around you, that's what's going to tell you. So literally all you would need to do is like stay away from that kind of like stuff, right? So the rune that we got was Vunya reversed. Vunya is a really good rune, even when it's reversed. So this is the rune of happy endings. We are coming into the basically cycle numerologically year number 12, which is basically cycle number 3 numerologically. I'm going to speak a little bit about that later, because oh my gosh, like year number basically 11 is tough. Year number 11 is challenging us on every single thing, and mostly on the things that actually we don't really want to be challenged. So that's something really to take in account. So this is talking about kind influence. This is talking about, hey, look, things are actually going to turn out well, right? It's encouraging rune, but when it's reversed, it kind of gives a little bit of kind of like caution that, for example, in terms of love relationship, maybe we are going to idolize someone. You know what? I say, heck, you know, why not? Usually we are so, I don't know if I want to say jaded. Like, I mean, there are like all kinds of people out there, right? And we are like, oh no, not again, right? So going on the other side, it's probably better, right? But this is also kind of like telling you, put it in perspective. Maybe somebody is looking too good to be true, and that's because he or she is too good to be true. So keep that in mind, because that person might be kind of like a little bit different from what they see. This is like entire year. They are not going to be able to put up the game for a year, especially if you see them on a regular basis. So I am really not worried about that. Also, another thing, if this is referring to business, then it's going to be danger of underhanded dealings, and even those who you consider friends might actually turn on you, and you might not count on them. So again, put that in account when you are making decisions that are including that other people. Now, what I would say with this particular rune, as it kind of like relates for the year number 3, that I would say make sure that at least you give yourself 3 days for kind of like really coming up with an answer. Sort of like, you know, not really mulling it over in these 3 days what to do. Sort of like when you have to reach a decision, put it on a back burner, 3 days on a back burner. When you come back in 3 days, then start deliberating what you want to do. So it's still very good, and this is that protection. Like P is for Vunya. I have my own names. P to me is for protection, and specifically when it comes here, because look, it's kind of like pointing backwards, right? So again, over idolizing means, hey, you know, I have all these friends, you know. I mean, I felt that way when I was moving, and then when the time came, like, I mean, everybody promised, and then one phone call after another, oh, I have a flu, I have this, I have this. So basically you see really who your real friends are. And this is exactly what it's saying. That date could be a surprise. So kind of like keep that in perspective. Already. So let's see what else we have. Let me just first get all the cards out. Oops, and we already have it. We have fighting. Oh, why do we have fighting thing? So let's, one on the floor. Wow, this is a lovely one. It's called Forgiveness. I love this one. And let's grab this one here. This is just a general energy, as it says something in, oh, this is a really lovely. You know, I'm so excited about this year. Let me zoom this in for you so you can actually have a better view of these guys, and I can kind of like give you a little bit more information. So fighting is probably a good kind of like omen, right? Fighting is like that proverbial knight of swords, which always kind of like can tend to be a little bit edgy, because look, he's like kind of like riveted himself in kind of like some kind of concoction that maybe he cannot even get out. So it almost like appears to me that somebody's like, I mean, so full of steam, the steam is coming out, it's even forming, as you can see here, some kind of like thing here on the side, right? So it is kind of like very important over here. What I really see here is like some kind of like edginess over here. What I really see here, and me being an air sign, I can really tell you how this works. Air sign can be the most easy breezy sign, but it can be tornado, it can be a hurricane, right? So what kind of like chance do you really want to take on this, right? So it is really important when you're dealing with air to kind of like understand that everything here depends on logic. Air is going to say, yeah, I love you, honey, but you are not showing up on time, you are not doing this, you're not doing this, and hence I am leaving you, right? Air is absolutely able to make that kind of stuff. So fire probably would kind of say, okay, well, let's see, let's come up with an action plan how to do that, right? Where, you know, Pentacles would go, okay, so what can you do for me? Like, let's make it more transactional kind of a thing, right? And kind of like water would go, okay, like, I mean, I really feel for you. I'm still going to kind of go and continue with this, right? So it is kind of like talking about an explosive temper and maybe even smoldering rage. And to me, whenever I see people like that, I always know there is pain. And these are strong people. And if you're listening to this, like when you see people who are maybe exploding, you want to do something and you find this like immovable, insurmountable obstacle, these people are conveying some kind of like pain. So when are people getting angry? When their needs are not met. When are people in pain? When their needs are not met. But it's actually even worse when they really feel they will never be met. With anger, like, at least, actually, believe it or not, it's better, because people feel, well, you know, if I do this, like, things are going to be met. So I know it's really hard when you have like something really harsh and edgy coming at you, but maybe you're going to remember my words. The person that you see in front of you raging and having those white knuckles and having all huffing and puffing and maybe being threatening, actually is just like the pussycat in the corner who wants to scratch everything because they're really hurting. So this is why they are showing this kind of like armor over here, because they're covering their wounds with armor. And actually, even though this is preventing, helping them not to get more wounds, it's also preventing them of being healed. So, you know, these people who lash at others, they just like simply prevent themselves of getting love and nourishment they need. If this is like us and getting that kind of stuff, we actually need to realize when we get angry, well, wait a minute, what is it that I have to kind of like let this like steam out? Because hey, love is like out there. Love is like literally something we need to kind of open our arms and get it. And if this is like you, that you find yourself in the situation, just kind of like give yourself a big hug. Ask your friends to give you a hug. It has a very healing thing. Also, another thing that I really tried and that really works, and I tell to my clients, take ballroom dance classes, take salsa lessons, because holding another human and in something that is enjoyable is going to transfer so much good energy. So I really think, given that this is coming for the ambience and environment we are going to find ourselves in it, that this is really talking about that this year is going to be one of the struggle. It's going to be where ambitions will be pushed forward. Many people, especially after year number 11, which is 2, where it's very spiritual, where it's like, really, do I really want to be that kind of person? And here is like, I'm moving forward. So up to this point was like all kind of like those strategizing, but here it is kind of moving forward. So when people move forward, some people try to negotiate and find a deal with others. These are people who are more people oriented. other people try to steamroll through whole thing and kind of like get what they want, right? So you need to understand yourself. So because this is kind of like the general overview, you have to figure out if you really want to be part of something like that. Do you really want something at any cost, or you simply don't want something at every cost, right? Because look what you have over here. You have forgiveness from this other deck, and like to me this is like one of those, the loveliest cards. This is the card that, you know, if you can see, we have like these different chakras over here. So we are already here in this high purple chakra. So your number 11 was all the way here, so we are getting more grounded. So this is again about judging and forgiveness. So even though it could be them being mad, being rude, being crude, I can see cussing and swearing and telling people off and a finger, I can see here a whole bunch of things. How you react to it, it's what your challenge is going to be. Are you going to just like simply engage in their pain and kind of like react back with anger? Or are you going to kind of like neglect yourself and just going to help themselves? You see how many challenges you will actually have there. But look, solution is being offered over here, forgiveness. It's, you know, it's not really about forgiving others in this situation. What I really think that forgiveness has to apply to is that we need to forgive ourselves for having judged others, because judging others always generates kind of like bad brownie points. There's like somebody here maybe who, you know, these people, they're angry with entire world, and my dad is just like it. I get this very, very much. Like whenever everything is perfect, they're still going to find something. We all have those kind of like negative, you know, Sandy, kind of like negative Nancy, kind of like a people around us. So, and of course, maybe sometimes we just like treat these people with a label on it, right? They say if you really want to kind of go higher, not only spiritually, but in your life, you shouldn't kind of like have things with labels. So cat shouldn't have C-A-T kind of like spelled on it. It's a being that kind of is engaging. You see the difference. It's like reading the energy versus reading the label. So here is like basically simply calling, look, you know, understand what is below and behind that armor, that this person is probably, you know, resenting things. And here, like, I mean, we need to kind of like focus on basically intention. What do they really want? And this kind of, imagine if you manage to kind of develop such thick skin that these things are not coming to you, how wonderful would that be? That's why I see this card, but we still didn't get there, right? This also tells me that it may be a time of family healing. I feel that anybody who have hurt you, who have done something, and you know, families have their own histories, especially if there is money involved, or you know, each family has quote unquote their own way. You know, if you watch Game of Thrones, Lancaster always pays his debts, kind of a thing. Story that we see is kind of like over present, but sometimes this is also very limiting, just like this armor. So this also can actually be part of those dynamics. Now, why am I going in such a long intro to tell you this? This is because you guys are on a trajectory of that year number 3, of wishes being fulfilled, of holding on to past dreams. Over the last 2 years, you have been meticulously changing. You have been setting a new path. You have been setting a new direction. You have been also doing lots of bad things, but now you need to forgive yourself. Look, there is like this hypo, and there is like this kind of like baby over here, right? And the story behind here goes, right, that you know, there was like this Rhonda, I think, Rhino, and kind of like she kind of like has a mother. Her mother has like a drinking problem, but she kind of like really wants to become a family pet. And so one day, kind of like she hears, I think, gunfire or something like that, and all the rhinos scatter, and all of a sudden there is like this small human child that is kind of like caught up in the chaos, right? So Rhonda says, come here. She picks him up and runs to safety. So humans now discover this kind of like pair curled up asleep under a tree, and then what they do, they shoot Rhonda with a sleeping dart. So when she awakens, she is in a garden with the little boy and his family. So this is now becoming Rhonda's new family. So as you can see how things can really change from some aggression and some kind of like struggle and white knuckles, things can actually quite work out quite well. And then we are getting this Temperance card. Well, Temperance in the other decks is really shown as an angel who is able to mix this bad and good, because it almost looks like two opposite sides of the equation, right? This is like all the way in the negative, this is all the way in the positive. This is like pretty much what we go to church for, what we pray for, what we hope for. This is like when we are at our best. So I'm not really surprised that actually we got this, like in saying, okay, so there is like this kind of like measurement that needs to happen, and there is like a mix. No, I'm not saying to be in the middle. I'm just like saying that you need to kind of like take every single bolt down from every single thing that you feel guarded, for every single thing that you feel you have made your decision, you have made your verdict over something, because this is also a card of reflection. So if you're going up, and I see many people are going in different direction, because this is a year of advancement, this is a year where we're actually putting things in practice. So if in 2018 you were planning to renovate the house, maybe you're collecting kind of like the ideas, maybe you were kind of getting your estimates, in 2019 you're going to put it in place. If in 2018, like you were trying to, let's say, get married and find a proper partner, and maybe you were running in a whole bunch of people and feeling maybe even a little bit disillusioned and now getting more guarded. No, it's actually not the time to get more guarded and put more bolts in it. It's like saying, look, I'm still learning what works and what doesn't work. So that's why this reflection is very important. You're looking back and saying, okay, this did come back to me and I did like it. This came back to me and I didn't like it. So you kind of like figure out, this I don't want to have anymore, and this, you know, I do want to have way more to have of this. But also you're saying, I can tolerate this and I cannot tolerate that. So you're kind of like creating that proverbial line in sand, which is like a little bit different. So this kind of like boundaries are set up different. Only thing, because we are having here like this naked woman instead of the angel and the water. Like the nakedness is always talking about being authentic and being true to yourself. And like the truth, some people say, oh, just say it the way it is. I like to be honest, but I cannot say, well, he's going to dump you, for example, right? The truth also always, and that's where the difference in between good human and bad human kind of comes to play, is like how you render it. Because here it's talking about the truth mixed with kindness is basically something that kind of like dissolves everything negative coming your way, right? So just like think about Vunya reversed, as I told you, 3 days. So when somebody comes at us, we react back. There is like this bad blood, right? And we say things that maybe we didn't want to say. 3 days delay, the steam is out, right? You wake up in a new garden and you realize, oh wow, you know, this person actually really wants this. So how do I meet his or her needs without sacrificing mine? Because at this stage the rational mind kicks in, and remember, this is all about logic. So if you can find a way to present that in a logical way, most likely you're going to be successful. Okay guys, so let me tell you a little bit about this year number 3, because that's also very important. So year number 3, we were technically in the year number 2, but for some of us was year number 11. So what's the difference? 1 and 1 is 2. And so why it was for somebody 11 and for some other 2. Not everybody can all the time be at the highest spiritual level. So we just like resort down to what we can do. So number 2 is about harmonizing. Number 2 is like, how can we actually improve and get along better and work better, right? But number 11 is like taking that to the much higher level, sort of like thinking about mankind. And funny enough, even though it is about good, when is good needed? Good is needed to erase the bad. So lots of bad things happen in year number 11. Lots of things that maybe we need to kind of really work for. So after a year in which other people's needs kind of eclipsed our own needs, now it is our turn. The 3 year is like really simple and more casual, this like 12-month cycle. And what is really, really important and advise making this big sign and put it on your fridge, what do I want? Right? You're going to see that all the things that maybe you didn't consciously plan, but they're kind of coming up, are actually really kind of like coming back. So your own long-term happiness and fulfillment are really the central issues here. And the 3 year cycle gives you that opportunity to discover and then create what you believe will actually make you happy. Remember Rune? So what you want is actually attainable regardless of what appears to be standing in your way. Are challenges going to happen? Do you have a clear road? Nope. No, you don't. But as I told you, like spend a few days to kind of think through it. Make sure that you have a backup plan, because people will surprise you with how unreliable they are. So direction of your happiness will be uncovered, and you will first have to detect and, as I said, heal the sources of your unhappiness, which you will find have as much to do with what is taking place in the world, as I told you, this is general, as it does also with your own personal situation, because they're like these two puzzles that have to fit together. So it's going to be about direction we take with personal situations, relationships, and also memories. You will really have to feel what you're feeling, and you will need to express those emotions in a way that is really natural for you. We all have different expressions. Yes, some signs are more aloof, some are like just like too kind of like, you know, opening their kind of like water taps too much and cry easily. But this is not to measure that just because you cry over something that you feel deeper or more. Sometimes people cannot cry because they would just like lose it. Just keep in mind when you see this person like huffing and puffing, angry, that person is like the one who just cannot allow themselves to do that, because they will fall apart. This is how fragile they really, really are. Remember, happiness is a feeling, it's an emotion, and that only comes from inside. And there will be at least one opportunity this year to feel joy as you have never felt it before. Remember, joy. Remember, what do I want? What kind of joy do I want? So as this 3 year kind of progresses, you are going to find yourself, and this is good, in some kind of spotlight. And you will certainly need to express your alternating fears of failure and success. Yes. If you feel, oh my gosh, I'm not going to succeed, that means you're hesitating. Like for the last 2 years, you have been going through that, thinking through it. So why don't you make these first steps? It's going to be some kind of like release. It's going to be making you feel more comfortable or who you are, what you are, and where are you now. It's going to be that realistic perspective. Remember the woman under this waterfall. It's kind of like that cleanse. I see myself now. I see myself clearly, right? So this completely a new spectrum of options will open up for you. So it's going to be really important that you're going to see now that you're creating something because you have already created in the past. It was in the back of your head. It was something you noticed, and now the puzzles are coming together, and you are becoming that creative springboard from which you build your future. And you might need to take a few courageous leaps in the dark, as I said. So if you're hesitating to make a first step, and if you're thinking, no, I don't ever succeed, I don't do that, well, no, this time you need to take the step forward, because that is going to completely open this new door. Because fear is really there to teach us. That's what needs to be healed, right? So that's kind of like what is guiding us on that path to develop courage and to know that you're far more capable than you ever allowed yourself to believe. And this is that level of self-acceptance. I am this way. I'm just this way. I'm not trying to be Cindy Crawford. I'm not trying to be Brad Pitt. I'm this way, but guess what? I'm really unique. My kindness, my approach with other people, whatever kind of like works for you, is like something very unique, very authentic for you. So that's going to be part of that self-acceptance. And all of a sudden your leaves will turn to bounds. And this year could turn out to be your most fulfilling year ever. So just remember that courage is not the absence of fear. Just because you're courageous doesn't mean you clear all that fear. So if you're not afraid also, then courage has nothing to do with that. So what courage really is the acceptance of fear and saying, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to get through it, whatever is causing it. So it could also be like, some kind of like financial state that you have to go through it. You're wondering how can you put things together. So it's kind of like moving it forward. That's kind of like really, really going to help. So this is kind of like that part telling you that nothing is going to be really rosy. But this year, among many, many years, is one of the best years. So in addition to courage that is going to be kind of like exercised, it's also going to be a year full of lightness and happiness and innocence and peace and truth and friendship, creativity, communication, dealing with younger people or feeling youthful ourselves. We are going to be more beautiful, and of course that's going to start kind of like shifting our personality into something that is lighter and more optimistic, more loving, and it's going to be way more laughter than we had in a while. Of course, you know, keep in mind, in order to get there, that sometimes that kind of like the opposite can come through it. So also, on the outside, we might see people who will try to put us in depression and sorrow and guilt, gossip, lies, enemies, ugliness. Am I talking about politicians? I guess I must be. As you can see, the reason why year number 3 is giving us all this happiness and lightness, it's simply to be the antidote to all of these kind of like other things. So if you experience this kind of like pessimistic or, you know, rejection or coldness, then these kind of like things have their purpose. Those adverse elements often enter our lives in the year number 3 to show us that we maybe equate happiness with really superficial and shallow things. And this year, because the number 3 is represented in tarot with Empress, and it's very female, it's very feminine energy. It is kind of like being quiet strength, being that light and light beam to the others. So just think about the perfect woman. So of course she's going to be challenged with those rude males or rude partners or partners who just like really want to conquer her. So yeah, she can engage back and just become just like one of them, or she can just like have this like kindness and lightness about her and just say, nope, I'm going to be courageous enough to say no to you. Maybe you're not my only choice, and if you are, I don't want you, kind of a thing. So year number 3 is very, very important as far as relationship. It's not asking you just to go and hook up with somebody. Nope, it's not going to work that way at all. So it actually is going to ask and demand independence. You will want to be independent. It's kind of contradiction. You're going to be actually more successful in a relationship by being independent than actually just trying to find somebody just because it's easier in the two. This is going to be a really, really good fit, because it's going to be an opportunity to love deeply without constantly worrying about what others think. And the more you have the higher self-esteem, the more you approve of yourself and do what you want to do, the more others will accept you as you are, because they'll be witnessing that transformation, and this like pure beauty is going to come through no matter how you look, because you're going to have that authentic confidence. So when this inner beauty is expressed outwardly, it's really, really hard to resist. And we all know people like that who might not even be beautiful on the surface, but their charisma is like so strong. They just like kind of have to put this kind of like smile on their face and they become irresistible. And usually we see that through smile quite a bit of the times. So anybody who will try to kind of like keep up appearances or having any kind of like displays of false confidence or being bullied, that's not going to work. If you want to pretend that you're happy or fearless, that's not going to work. Remember, it's going back to what do I want, and it's going to make you push you through. You need to get there by getting along with the other people, by being kind, by being nice. And that of course means kind of like wiggling through many different people who might still not get this memo. So friends will also play an important role in this year, so make sure that you actually give yourself more time for social interaction, and that's where the independence with relationship is going to kind of come to play, because you will kind of like try to please other people, but you also have to realize that you are important, right? So you shouldn't kind of like spread yourself too thin if you're neglecting yourself. You kind of have to put yourself first and then kind of like give time to everybody, because if you don't pay attention to your friends, then you're going to lose them, because this year is going to be year of abundance. Just like think about it, it's going to be Christmas all year long. This is how it's going to feel. So how would you feel that very, very good friends like you on Christmas? So keep in mind that you're really thinking about everybody, because it's going to be very, very important for kind of like what kind of brownie points you do that in the future. Because you know, courageous is not only being when, you know, when there is a fear or there is a struggle, but what when you really can do it, when there's easy to do it, and then you don't do it out of laziness, or you just become, you know, arrogant because you feel like you're better than anybody else. Keep that in mind, keep that in perspective, because also individuality is going to be very important. You'll be kind of like creating some kind of like new format of who you are. You can kind of like remove these like bad parts or smoothen them, and kind of like understand that the happiness, this new happiness that you're generating, is also partially because you are actually creating this new optimism. And anybody who is going to have a blatant self-interest is just simply going to be kind of like pushed on the sidelines, and they'll be probably waiting on the next cycle, which is going to come in 9 years, to try it again, right? So also, this is a very creative year. It's a year of communication, expression. So you might want to read, or you might want to write a book, but it's also going to be looking at the images and sound and humor and movies. It's going to be really important. It's almost going to be a big stage, right, this year. So kind of like expression in many different elements. Also, as I said, with the rune Vunya reverse, make sure you check the facts for yourself. It's very often in the 3-year that we kind of like really succumb easily to, what do you call it, hearsay, I believe, or somebody who is very loud. You know, just because you're very loud doesn't mean you're right. So that's why I'm saying give it a delay of 3 days. Somebody says I'm authority, question even that, because the truth is likely to be buried beneath layers of deception or misconception, right? So try to keep an open mind. Also, this year could be a year of appearances. So meaning what appears to be the case must be seen for what it is deep down, not just like what it appears to be, right? Just because you have flowers and something looks really nice on the top doesn't mean there's like something really muddy and horrible on the bottom. So just make sure that you correctly understand everything, that you clarify, and that you kind of like are on the same page. And even at that, kind of like still, if you feel that you're betrayed or somebody's like negative, you just like will realize this is just part of the course. Maybe you shouldn't react. Maybe this person is in pain. Maybe this person feels you're going ahead and they are not, and even though it's not your fault, they are being reactive. And take this in account before you actually kind of like deal with other people. Keep in mind that the better person you are, the better everybody around you will become, because it's almost contagious, and this is how good it's going to be. And you're going to really address that feel, as I said, that armor is not going to last, it's going to fall apart. Like, I mean, we have to heal all the wounds. We kind of are generating completely this new body. Remember the woman under the waterfall, we are washing it over, we are healing. Just think about for a moment, God is giving you everything new. New health, new body, new possibility, new start. And even though we are going to have share of our problems this year, we are perfectly able to deal with them. The Empress is the perfect woman. She addresses things wisely, and she's kind of like moving it forward with this gentle touch, this loving and kindness and children and pets and creativity and anything that we can give birth to, such as like, I mean, new things, a new personality, new perspective is going to be really, really important. So the year of optimism, which is very positive, I would just like, I mean, welcome you to enjoy your trip on the tree path, because it's going to be interesting and a creative year to live in. So let's start with the individual signs from this point on. Hi Taurus, and Happy New Year and upcoming holidays, and I really, really hope you enjoy this reading. So, shall we start? Right out of the gate, let me tell you, this is going to be a fantastic year for you. How do I know? I usually gauge kind of like what I see against your sign, because not everybody wants the same thing. You know that saying, you cannot please everybody, but I really know what usually pleases an earth sign. Earth sign usually gets satisfied with, you know, food on the table, good food on the table, may I add, a great partner, and comforts of life. So it's going to be so much that is going to be pouring this time, guys. Look at this. We have 6 and 6 and 6 and 6 and 6. Which one is this? 7. So we have few 7s as well. So it's going to be a mixture between soulmate year and soul path. So let's start. You guys are starting the year with a really big bang. Check this out. Music, musica. So what is about music? It is like really something that we are creating, but we are creating something we are really hearing in nature, and we are really hearing that melody, right? So melody is also kind of like connecting to rituals, right? Melody is really connecting to kind of like harmony. We really bond, like we have the wedding march. This is kind of like something that kind of like really makes us stronger, right? So it is kind of like definitely a good interpretation of what you guys really like, enjoying those earthy things, kind of like not only feeling of harmony, but also that ceremonies that kind of like is connected to do emotions and sensations and thoughts that we kind of like really experience when kind of like things really come around. So whether or not you had chaos around you, it is really time. Look at how peaceful this really, really looks. Look at how basically, you know, harmonious it can actually looks like, some kind of like a blend, right? Because it looks like they're absorbed and they're playing, that almost like they appear to be in a trance, right? Almost like they're like allowing this music to flow. And that's kind of like where we have this waterfall here, where I see the flow finally reaching somewhere in the third quarter. Here I'm actually dividing this in quarters. So first of all, I'm just like really looking what's happening here. So right out of the gate, you are kind of like setting up certain kind of like measurements. You have memories of love and seek the truth. Look at the difference kind of like that I see over here. I really think this is like talking about somebody from the past. I mean, there are going to be things here that you guys are also going to have to work on, but working on certain things are going to be so beneficial. It's kind of like really going to go beyond your expectations this year. They're like somebody possibly from the past, or if this is not exactly a person who maybe left a mark on you. You know, some people, karmic soulmates, those twin flames, they kind of like burn in us and they kind of like brand us. And this is basically what is this really talking about. There is like something that is kind of like really going around that is still kind of like making us taste it. This doesn't mean this taste is really, really good for us, but you're saying it is good for me and I want it. It is something that actually can go back. Maybe you're going to reconnect with somebody from the past. This generally talks about really either going all the way back. This could be like that you will have your high school reunion and it's going to be spark with somebody you didn't have spark before, or you're going to bump into somebody who you met before and it's going to be, oh my gosh, you know, now it's the right time. You know, when I talk about the right time and the right place and you're going, yeah, blah blah, this is what I'm talking about. This time you're going to be ahead of that curve. And there it is, going to that mental understanding. Look at that. It is kind of like opening that both people are getting it. There is like the connection. There is like that thing that finally clicks. Look at, I like the light that I am seeing over here. That light is kind of like putting kind of like almost like cherry on top of something that already was good. So you have that apple pie and ice cream and whipped cream and now cherry. Oh my God, like, I mean, couldn't you stop on apple pie kind of a thing? So it's kind of like not stopping, and this is like amazing. We are year number 3, we are the emperors, but you're saying, I'm going to be the emperor. So this is really important to put it in perspective, right? Because the empress is going to be the general energy. Remember what I said, empress, hold 3 days if you kind of have a really, really important decision. But emperor really talks about finances. It is talking about big picture. It is talking about strategy. It is talking about in which direction I really want to move. Like, look at this proud lion here. He doesn't look like he's putting lots of effort, but try to invade the territory and you're going to see like this big fangs. Now, like, nothing really good can happen without something to kind of like mess up, right? It's always kind of like that compromise and trade-off, you know, like this yin and yang symbol. The white part has the little black dot and vice versa, right? It's always something, because I'm seeing that here, and it's kind of like a card that calls sorrow. This is kind of like a story over here that somebody is kind of like really feeling like, I mean, sorrow of losing his master, right? And everybody's saying, oh, wait a minute, but like, I mean, you're supposed to be a Buddhist, you're supposed to transcend this, right? But he is kind of like understanding here finally that he's not crying because he has lost his master, but because he kind of like felt that he was like with this master thinking he's going to reach that, you know, enlightenment. But you know, sometimes when we are in these times of great sorrow, just like the story goes here, that finally when he managed to verbalize what really, really bothers him, and he managed to stay up that whole night and kind of like meditating on that new understanding of the situation, and all of the sudden, right, when he realized why he has this pain and sorrow about this like terrible loss of his mentor, he was enlightened. And that's basically what they say. When you try and you don't get somewhere, try to just not to try, and things just like might happen. So this is really telling me, and I kind of like see that maybe some of you are coming into this year trying to put a lid or trying to close the door on something that was. And yes, the memories are there, and maybe something was really nice and sweet and welcoming. But this is also talking about that in order to transform, you really, really must go deep, and you must go to basically very roots of our pain and experiences without blaming it, right? The whole key over here is to really understand what else you really need to release, because this is really going back to that inner maturity that we see in the emperor, right? If you see this emperor crying on this throne, it's not going to have this impact. And I am not telling you, and karma doesn't want you to be a wimpy lion. It is not about you not crying. You're simply needing to address what needs to be let go in order for you to actually get to this situation. I really like this because, of course, nothing good comes without something that kind of like has to be worked on. So you really need to let go. Look at this. This is 9. Something needs to be let go. And I do have a really, really good feeling what that's going to be. I really think that you're going to start this period with a big bang. This might come somewhere toward March, where maybe it's going to be the new Mercury retrograde phase, maybe nostalgia, but things are going to start to kick in at that stage. Now, it's not going to last very long. This is really good news about Taurus. It's kind of like, it's melancholy, it kind of overwhelms you, but by the next morning it's kind of like over, and it doesn't have that kind of like hard impact upon us. Which kind of leads us to the second quarter, and you have like this beautiful card, waterfall. As I said, there is like this flow, and you have to trust that flow, that people will be coming to your life for a reason. You will be getting all kinds of soulmates knocking on your door. Do you want a door 1? Are you going to immediately grab this person, somebody who is maybe arriving from the past? Or do you want a door number 2, where this person is so sexy and so tempting, but maybe not really willing to be loyal? Or do you really want the door number 3? Because look at that harmony. So you will probably need to kiss few frogs, but you're going to have fun along the way. Just like the waterfall. Because water naturally flows from higher to lower ground, and it's eventually finding basically its way to the ocean, right? So water is extremely dynamic, and it's a really good fit with your element Earth. This clearly tells me that this is coming to the edge of your comfort zone, and maybe this whole kind of like sorrow episode shows up because maybe you were, resisting moving past that perceived basically precipice of who you are and how you want to be or what you can do. Now, this is asking you to go, beyond the edge. Allow yourself to do so with ease. Don't struggle. Maybe at times physical exertion will be necessary, so some of you might really decide to get in shape. This kind of like is going to be really interesting because your sign is ruled by Venus. The card that is going to dominate this year, the Empress, is actually ruling your sign. So the beauty and fluidity and grace is going to be something that you are really emphasized this year. And because of that, you're going to be very attractive to the others. Things might be really effortless for you. So whenever you have issues, whenever you have somebody who maybe doesn't see eye to eye things with you, because look at here, you have reverse clarity or belief, or if you feel somebody is telling you lies, sweet little lies, don't try to smooth it over just water. Don't try. The idea is like to make it effortless. As it says, we should not try, because the moment when you try to make it effortless, right, just if you think about it, it becomes strain, right? So it is about allowing. You will be in the second quarter going through some kind of like really interesting concepts over here. It's going to be temptation, as I said. It might be somebody who could be already in a relationship. If this is the case, it looks like you won't be able to resist, because look, you really want to, but it's kind of like, look, he wants to kind of like see this light and escape. That's the key. But temptation and attraction is like so enormous. This card is really talking about those dark affairs that are hidden, that shouldn't happen, that you have this big hope, but you also have that trepidation that there are like certain things, and this is Matrix moving the tripod, that certain things shouldn't happen, because look at all of these things. What's up, baby? Do you love Taurus? I think that's Taurus over here, my little black putty kid. So this is, look at this, like grabbing him And this is like really what happens when we kind of like see that person who could be our karmic soulmate. Just like one look can be fatal. You can never get it out of your head. We don't see it as much these days because nobody is really printing newspapers or worse yet reading. But about 20 years ago, lots of ads you would find in what we call it equivalent of Craigslist. I'm pretty sure that maybe on Craigslist we can find things like that today, where people say, I was on the subway station or a bus station that and that day, and it was a lady there who actually had the most amazing smile. We exchanged a smile. And I was too confused to really kind of like approach, like, I mean, I hope she's reading this, contact me, sort of a thing, right? This is like something that kind of like goes like this. You simply go with your gut. But your gut might not be telling you the truth, because effortless is supposed to be something that actually brings you to the better space, not necessarily to space that it's going to be a strife or somebody gets hurt kind of a thing, right? Because look at that, you're having things that is called clarity of belief, and he is releasing the butterfly, that kind of like freedom. So you really need to release something. Look at it, effortless. Release it, allow it. Look at this big heart, and it could be somebody named with B, possibly over here. You're clearly dealing with a person who is not telling you the truth. Absolutely not telling the truth. So also it could be lots of arguments. It could be like really strain, and this is not exactly what the message is over there. I honestly have to warn you that it's going to be such huge temptation that might end up in tears. But it's really up to you, because this is really talking about holding your ground. Maybe if you notice red flags or something like that, it is time to kind of like let go. I am really telling you that this is going to be quarter where it's going to question you on every single level. Look at here, it is called isolation. So in particularly, this can refer to men. It's kind of interesting that we have water again over here. It's going to be really interesting when I start explaining to you, right? Because it might be talking about men, because men in this society are being told not to cry, so they bottle up things, and eventually they really don't know how to express their emotions, because technically they kind of like hunt and they express things through basically physical effort, right? So women also can fall into trap too, and then, you know, one way or the other we kind of like think, oh my gosh, how will I survive through all these feelings over here, right? This again can talk about the pain. Or it could be that, because this card also talks about codependency, it talks about that here you kind of like starting to feel that security and harmony and balance, and then somebody or something comes and messes it up. And it usually happens when you date somebody and then things break, and then you walk away, and then you hook up again, and you, oh gosh, it's going to work this time around. Why would it work if it didn't work the first time? Oh well, it's going to be different. You have to go through therapy. You do have to go through like a really clear debate. If somebody's just feeding you with things you want to hear, you know, you see where this is going. So I do see that you're going to have the presence of mind, that you're going to see those red flags, that you're going to ask. Some of you are going to really be afraid to ask, because look at here, this basically, I don't know if you can see it, the stairs are actually rainbow colored, and this is basically the key, basically to kind of like, it's a solution, right? Because these tears, and only the tears, have the power to melt this ice. So if you need to cry, just, this is much better than balling it up. Do not be ashamed, because this is like really telling me there is like a time to let go of pain, because somebody here might be really pushing you into something that can be dark and especially for you guys, you're like earth sign, you need security more than anything else. But there is like somebody here who is playing games. Oh my gosh, this person is like so sexy, so seductive. They are telling you everything you want to hear. So now, which way will you go? I'm going to tell you. If you go and submit yourself to this person, it will end in tears and you will have to deal with that pain. If you become this unicorn and you realize, wait a minute, why am I putting up with this? For which reason? I have so much to offer. If you kind of like take the stand and say, no, this is not going to go. If you have a situation, you handle your situation. Who knows? Maybe we meet again. I don't even want to plan anything. I'm not waiting for you. It's going to be sad too. It might have few rainbow kind of like tears. But guess what? Because of that, you are resolving this karma and you are moving into harmony, into somebody. Maybe this person at this stage snaps out because that's the karmic relationship. Look at this, these two cards. They are the opposite side of the same coin. 15, 1 and 5 is 6, and 6. That will be the Lover's card, and that will be the Devil card in the other decks. Also, over here, you yet have another 6. So it says believe and succeed. So for those of you who basically have chosen wisely, and choosing wisely, remember, as I said, you need to put yourself on a pedestal. The moment this year you remove yourself from this pedestal, you will actually go into a situation that is very uncomfortable for a sign, into that kind of like overthinking over here, and the tears, and oh my gosh, why did that didn't happen to me? Why didn't I succeed? Where this is just there. You just have to see it. Because look at this, guys. There is like this light coming through. It's finally, it's that opening, that kind of like arrival of kind of like the trouble is stopping. Maybe simply by you taking that stand, you're resolving all of kind of like those issues, all of those issues that maybe couldn't previously kind of like be workable. And it is still some kind of like a balancing act. Lots of things happening here. We do see the city, we see the fence over here, and yet we see this person kind of like slowly kind of like going down. This card can also sometimes talk about juggling and balancing things. I do not think that in your case this really talks about a third party. I really think in your case it is finding this like newfound approach. But some of you kind of like feel here, oh my gosh, if I just say no, I'm going to lose him, or I'm not going to have her. But this is actually going to take this in a much different direction. It is going to be something that is going to be memorable for many years to come, right? And you have the lake over here, and this particular thing, all of a sudden things are going to calm down. This is again time to disconnect from hustle and bustles, and this temptation is usually fast and you have to do it, and it's like somebody who's playing games, but this is like interesting, right? It kind of like makes your life very exciting, and it's going to feel so good to kind of like really relax and not to have any of that, right? It's going to be somebody who is going to enter your life, who is going to look and feel so natural. You might still feel a little bit kind of like weirded out because the recent experience have been a little bit negative, but actually you are moving in a new direction. You're moving in a new direction, and you should really, the rest of the year, really work just on your own guard, because kind of like you're feeling, oh my gosh, it's better for me to be guarded. But again, it's good to be guarded with people like that you haven't been guarded with, and then you're getting guarded with the people you shouldn't be. You see how basically sometimes works the opposite way. Because look where you're getting into. You're getting into kind of like this creation. And when it comes to this card, this Dreams Time is like one of my favorite cards. It really talks about the Aboriginal felt that the spirits create all of these basic things around us. The planet, the animals and hills and stars, and that everything basically has a soul. So there is like this didgeridoo, I believe, Aboriginal kind of hollow branch, which kind of like produces really, really nice sound, right? And we are talking about 60,000 years of like these kind of like stories being passed around. So this is like really for you to connect. Look at these two cards. You're really connecting with the essence. This is like what happens when you get these brownie points. Check this out. Not only are you getting somebody who really loves you and who you love back, you are really needing to resolve that nervousness that you have around this, because you're almost like wiping your eyes and you're thinking, I can't believe it. This is really, really happening for me. Well, believe it. You need to kind of close your eyes and tune into your breathing and allow yourself to really sink deeply into the heart, that living creation that you are. You are here for a reason. Yes, you are. And there's more reason than just like, putting a food on the table and going kind of like ahead. Because you need to understand that breathing is very important. It's that crossover between this reality and the spirit world. That's where we connect. So because you're going to be so much in your head this year, right? Look at this. So much in your head, like you're almost like resisting. There's like, again, hello, you're Taurus, stubborn, it's a fixed sign. Look at that. There is like this whole thing, because you have been hurt so many times. Then this is the only thing that I really worry, because he now ensured, you know what, I am going to be able to really defend myself. Look at it, fighting. And this card is also about fighting. This card is also about fighting. But lots of things are going in this person's head. The problem here is, just as I told you, you need to know with whom you have to let the guard down. And it's really not kind of like, I'm going to do it this way and I'll see where it goes, because you might actually lose people who are just perfect for you, right? They will not approach you if you have this kind of attitude. So the truth here is really healing yourself, and to understand that people are people. People might let you down. It might be foolish things to actually give trust to some people, but also there will be the one that the rewards will come multifold. So it's going to be that kind of like, you see this universal scale that you will really need to put in order. But the truth that you didn't have that clarity of the truth before, it's finally coming in balance. Whether or not somebody else is giving you these answers, or these answers just came to you, it's immaterial, because this is really, really happening. So there is like really no need to be edgy, because hey, people can do whatever they want. You're really afraid, I think, especially when you see any signs that somebody doesn't want to do things your way. And this is, I think, all that is really, really needed, that you need to understand that love is expressed by other people in a different way. Just like in this basically dreams time creation, different people have different feelings and different concepts about creation. So just think about different religions, right? Each of them have their own conceptual idea. And who are we to judge that mine is better than yours, or so on and so forth? This is clearly talking about finding that universal balance, because look at, you have a truth coupled with trust. And trust, you don't have enough. This is going to be a year where you need to trust, not to others, to yourself, my dear Taurus, because look at this. This is, again, the same card. Love, it's growing. And it is really something what I really like in this card, that he kind of like leaned over to make sure they're looking each other eye to eye, and there is like something that is really equal about them. It really shows me that earthy kind of like feeling, but also something emotional. Look at that big apple or big heart coming through. And these are two different decks showing the same card. Just imagine how powerful that really is. This one is called Harmony. So looks like you need to find your sea legs, because temptation and this devil energy kind of has this feeling that we have to do it, that we're going to lose something if we just don't do it, and then we just get all frenzies and worked up over the situation. this harmony is again going back in this balance. It's kind of like finding out, well, this is too much for me. I'm homebody. I kind of like don't really want to go out this much. But then again, in order to date, in order to find somebody, I need to go. So you need to kind of like find that thing. And it looks like here, there is like this karma card, this balance. There is like this clarity. You're clearing it. And you're clearing any kind of like ill will of all of these people whom you generate for who knows how long, who are actually writing on that slate of who you are. Remember, when you tell us to, and you have that 3 over here, right? When you tell us to just kind of like delay for 3 days if there is something. So over here, this is like one of those, you know, stop signs where cops are going to be around the corner and ticket you if you pass through it. So be very sure that you drive your life wisely. So we are talking here between end of March and let's say the beginning of July. So that's spring, and your birthday is going to be fun, but it's going to be maybe too good to be true. So choose wisely. But having said that, guys, even if you don't, things are going to make sure that they are rebalancing themselves. The only thing that kind of like can be the fly in that ointment is that kind of guarded attitude. And I mean, who can blame person who have been kind of like burned? Like, I mean, burned twice, kind of like careful, you know. Again, that's probably not a proper expression, but okay, fine, you know what I mean. So let's go next. What I'm going to do, I'm going to look different segments of your life through astrological houses. So going to be part number 2 of your annual read, and the part number 3 is going to be Lenormand. So that way, you know, I'll be able to tell you which segments of your life are going to work better than the others. So we can start with that. And that house of me is Knight of Cups. As I told you, it's just like, I mean, no fail. You guys are going to have certain things kind of like coming forth. Plus, I'm seeing a few things over here. It's kind of similar. This is, I think, page, but this is very similar to this Knight of Swords that I see. And what else I've seen that we kind of have in common? We have, I believe, this 7 of Pentacles that is kind of like that showed up somewhere here. There it is. And I think we had 7 of Fire as well. So as you can see now how certain things are going to be placed a little bit more in perspective. But we also had, you know, that sad energy, which I'm seeing actually coming in your higher ideals, in your kind of like spiritual goals, kind of a thing. All right, so let's see where this takes us. This Knight of Cups, lovely. This talks about your outward personality. You'll be lovey-dovey, you'll be flirting, you will be basically living for romance. I don't really want to elaborate. This is like a knight in the shining armor, and if you want to be a knight, you will be this knight. If you want to be romance, then you're going to be sending those pheromones and these happy signals. You guys are going to be so freaking beautiful. I just don't even know where to start explaining this. And there is like another karma card, right? We had this judgment card over here, or what do they call it in this particular deck? The truth, right? And almost like it's that God looking at you with x-ray kind of powers truth, not just fess up kind of thing. Oh no, you had actually one more karma card because you had this clarity of belief. So you actually had two, and now the third one is actually showing up. So you have this Wheel of Fortune and it's falling, and hello, you're going to love this, in your house of personal resources. So house number 2 is money, possessions, values, and skills. And it's kind of like a really, look at this, celebration. It's going to be kind of like putting you ahead. You will be actually really enjoying something financial, kind of like rewards. But be also very careful, because you're going to benefit in some way. Wheel of Fortune is kind of like really interesting card. It kind of does give it to you, almost like, let's see what you'll do with it. And if you kind of like splatter it, which you probably will really try to, like, splurge it this year because you want to be beautiful. I can see all kinds of things here for Taurus, even beauty treatments, even kind of like a little bit plastic surgery, kind of like touch up with the Botox, that kind of stuff. I can see you going in the gym, buying a really, really nice clothes, and you're going to say, I am worth it. I kind of like want to do it, right? You're also going to have people who will be buying that for you. So it's not necessarily that you really have much to worry about, guys, for sure, right? So house number 3 here is like what we basically had here. This is about your immediate environment, right? Mental activity and learning and siblings and communication. So something here is going to come to the point that is going to be feeling that you cannot build something. You cannot build something obviously here that can be your siblings and parents, because you are so traditional, and also your earth sign to kind of like boot it, like earth sign plus Taurus, traditional, stubborn, right? We know matrix is Taurus, right? So when he wants something, he's going to sit at the edge of the bed and look at me because he wants particular food, and he gets it. Slow and steady wins the race. But you know, Chicago stock market is being basically presented with a strong bull. Try to mess with them, but that stubbornness is going nowhere. This guy has to let go of his armor, right? This guy really needs to look at here. It's almost like showing like blood until you really look closely, and then you realize it's a tower. It's something that has to be burned down, and the tower is reappearing. And I'm again telling you, because this is falling in this house, which kind of belongs to basically Scorpio, of that sex and letting go. You need to rebuild yourself. You have to stay away from things that are creating conflicts. It could be also that, you know, your family is maybe not accepting of maybe this new lifestyle. Maybe you are newly kind of like free. Maybe you want to divorce. Maybe you want to be with somebody whom you want to divorce, who kind of like you're fighting for. Maybe your family is not supportive over here. This year is basically asking you to explore, right? You did see that kind of like it has to be effortless, has to be harmonious. So whenever you run into the struggle, right? Remember, we do have Vunyo as kind of like general guidance, but Vunyo with sort of like a warning in it. And your warning is going to be when you see people, or when you recognize yourself getting frisky to a point that you really want to become argumentative. Let this kind of like come to you and say, well, wait a minute, that's not really where I really want to be, or how I should be, right? And how I should go about it. And this is your house. This is like about romance and children and fun and creativity. This is like what they call it, ICER house. And here you have like the sun. And it doesn't matter if the sun is up or down. I see this motive of two of them looking at each other's eyes. The sun, it really in regular decks talks about births and celebrations. And here it's basically because it's in the house of the children. I kind of like feel that either something is going to be connected with your children if you already have them, or you maybe are trying to get pregnant, and if that's what it is, that's what you want, you're going to get your wish. If you do not want to get pregnant, make sure you're careful. Yes, mom, right? Kind of a thing. This also talks about somebody who has children. Remember, like that temptation card kind of a thing? But the sun reverse is really talking about happiness. It doesn't matter up or down. Sometimes too much of the sun, too much of the brightness is too much. We need a shadow. And this is kind of like that beautiful sunset where you sit basically on that bench, like watching into that beautiful water and that beautiful sunset. And it's one of those memorable things in life that are really, really important. And here we have work and health and service and self-improvement, sort of like the daily life. You know how I said certain things maybe in the past didn't really work out, or maybe there are like conflicts within the family. And here, this is really talking the right time and the right place. Things are kind of like starting to mesh. It's almost like, looks like that some situations that could have been very filled with strife are now kind of like falling in balance. Because you see, this angel has two very different things. Maybe this cup is full of good and love, and this cup is full of hate. So what happens when we merge this? You see, they kind of like get neutralized. Mind you, the hate is not opposite of love. What is opposite of love is indifference, right? This clearly falling basically in the house of your health and service and self-improvement. It's really telling me that you are picking up all these loose ends. You're going to be kind of like really striving and going toward that. Now, I'm also seeing fire signs. I'm really seeing fire, 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 and fire. And I'm seeing also water signs that can be really dominating and be really good for you, where air signs might not be that good for you. I'll be really, really honest with you. But it's going to be sort of like you're going to conceptualize this entire year, because here we are coming into your house of your partner, and what is your awareness of others? Did I not tell you? You guys are defensive. You guys kind of, you know, as I said, some of you really need to take your stand if you allow others to walk over you. Remember I said you will have to go for a few more spins on this karmic wheel. If you kind of like hold your stand and know that you are important. You see the difference here? Okay, fine, it's being your way. And then things don't get resolved. And then you just like feel your needs are not met versus they are, right? And look at this, what they call it, fire something, fire, fire, fire. And it is just like some absolutely amazing sight. Where is my unicorn? Do you want this? Or do you want this? This or this? Guys, that love, that something, oh, that was Chinese, that really lasted very long. I cannot even close anymore. Oh, oh. So guys, you have to understand that people always approach you like this, and then with time they actually really show us their teeth and their real colors. You have to kind of like keep the presence of mind, because look, they cannot close it anymore. And kind of like understand that people are people. It takes some time to get to know them, but once when they show who they are, trust them. It's very important, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's that house, as I said, of the sex, of intrigues, of letting go, of regeneration. And it looks like that you're going to have such a good and cozy year that something might kind of like come up to shake it up. So, and that's going to really, really happen for those, remember what I said, that are not going to take a stand on their own. So if you don't do it, it's simply things are not going to work out. I totally see, because the Tower talks about, hey, you know what, look, everybody's falling off. Things are not being built properly. Things really need to be done the way it should be done, because here it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You need to do that properly. Literally, nobody gets spared over here. And it is like one of those really, really big messages, right? We have that temptation, which is number 15, right? And this is like what happens when temptation is not resolved. You see, this is before temptation. It's kind of telling you, and you might be also dating somebody from work, to be honest with you. Before temptation, you need to kind of like figure out if this temptation is actually leading somewhere. Are you sure you really want to do that? Then temptation, which is not resolved, goes here. And karma says, nope. Nope, we are going to be dealing with this a little bit differently. And that's usually the situation when people find out it's a mess everywhere, you know, poo is hitting the fan, kind of, you know, the story. Be careful about your choices. Put yourself on the pedestal. Very, very, very important. So these 3 cards here are kind of like talking about philosophy and religion and travel. And I'm surprised that I'm seeing Queen of Cups, but I really think somebody's going to be a diva here, or you might deal with somebody who cannot be pleased. So either this is going to be you, it might be you, because oh my gosh, this year is going to be so good for you. And here we are talking about achievement. And I really think this is a good card when it reverses. It kind of goes back to that Emperor. Remember that you're going to set the stage. So career-wise, you are really kind of like trying to aim and kind of like hit really, really high. Here is this person realizing, just like this guy here, look, I really need to remove that armor, because when I remove it, then all the wounds that are underneath need to see the light of a day and be healed. And all this kind of like struggle and strife that I'm experiencing on the inside, it's kind of like going to kind of like get completely different dimension. So this is what happens when you're kind of like walled in, right? So when this reverses, we are kind of putting these walls down. It's in your case, your earth sign, it is brick by brick by brick. But interesting thing here, and the lesson is about sharing. The lesson is about letting other people in your life, not making them deserve you. In a sense, if you feel they're not treating you well, then simply you put yourself on the pedestal. They don't need to deserve you. You're just saying, look, that's the way it's going to be. So that's kind of like 2 different things. Over here, this is really talking about group contribution, friends and groups and aspirations. You might be going about this in a weird way because you really want to be the leader of the group. And that's probably due to everything else, kind of like really, really working in your life and around you. But this is really saying, really, like the whole point over here is to learn to be selfless. So that's going to be one of those lessons that really needs to kind of like be taken account, that if you kind of like go for something that kind of like goes in a higher achievement, you should just like do it not for your name to be known, not for your contribution to be known, just simply because that's the right thing to do, right? Try to kind of go there almost like anonymously, right? And lastly, as I told you, spiritual life. I really don't think, and I'll be honest, that your spiritual life is going to have a huge advancement this year, because you'll be really dealing with lots of pragmatic things. You'll be dealing with things what you really want, and those wants will be even temptations, will be some good things, will be some bad things, will be about finding like really where you really should be and where you should really aim. So that's kind of like positioning according to the houses. So what's going to do next, I'm going to actually shuffle Lenormand, and we are going to see the lay of the land as well, so we can layer that as well in addition to this. So let's do this next. Alrighty, Taurus, this is very, very interesting. So I'm seeing the same patterns that I was seeing in a quarterly and that I was seeing in your houses. First of all, there are 2 significators, and either of them can be you or both of them can be you. We have the gentleman and we have the lady, and they're meeting here. As I told you, this is going to be passionate here. We see the whip, we see the snake. Both of them are talking about these passions. As I told you, it might be children this year, and it could be this child is not something that you really, really expected, right? And it could be these arguments in the house, which again talks about your parents, and it's maybe talking about clearing some issues that could be related to inheritance or something that's supposed to be coming to you of one form or another. I'm surprised that I'm seeing the letter in the house. I don't know, like, I mean, some of you are actually purchasing something, a house in particular, or something for the house this particular year. So since kind of like these two significators are meeting in quite a few cards, this is again confirming this is going to be kind of like soulmatey feeling. As you can see, when we go down, so it can be the cross, which is the darkness, which is the temptation, and then the clouds. Remember that I said here is going to be temptation, being with somebody who is maybe not yours, shouldn't be yours, and you shouldn't be even putting your paws on it, right? Even though, you know, Taurus, you know, this big bull doesn't have a paw, but you know what I mean. And the snake is very, very powerful in a very, very powerful situation. It could be also this is an ex-partner of somebody that you really want to be with, but this person can actually make sufficient amount of problems. And since she is in the house of the tower and you have the tower right next to you, it can mean that you both want the same thing. This tower is not the one that I told you everything kind of has to be rebuilt completely. This kind of tower means a little bit different. It kind of like can talk about government, so hence divorces, weddings, that kind of stuff can actually really speak about that. This tower here is in the house of a fox though, right? And the fox generally talks about somebody being sly or too smart for their own good, kind of a thing, right? You see it here. And remember how I said this person is going to kind of like give you all the seductive methods. They're going to be really into you. They're going to be things. Maybe they are experiencing issues in their own home and are trying to rebound. You know, like it's kind of like for them, maybe it's a rebound relationship. And when people do that, they forget to tell us things that are pertinent. So do not jump with 2 feet in. Remember when I said it's not about who they are. They're eventually going to tell you who they are. This is more about who you are. And if you're willing to draw this like line in sand, when you just realize that maybe things were just like more of an illusion, right? That's why you have the clouds over here. And it's like something from the past. So now what does that mean? This could mean literally that somebody from the past, see, I have OCD. I cannot stand that things are not lined up. Somebody from the past showing up. But it also could mean that those issues that you maybe had with other partners in the past are showing up and things need to be resolved. Somebody has a really big stronghold on one person, and it is like this big obstacle that really needs to be resolved, right? The lilies is falling in the house of the mountain. And this is kind of like interesting. Big mountain is like one of the hardest cards to deal with, which actually luckily for you over here, it's in the house of the coffin. So if a death kills death, woo, awesome, kind of a thing, right? So struggle is basically killed. But it's going to get time to get there, right? Because this can be that situation that we saw tears, that we saw feeling that you lost somebody, where we see the three-party kind of involvement, where you don't know if you're coming or if you are going, kind of a thing. It could be a whole bunch of things. You might be involved with somebody who you maybe know through somebody. It could be even some kind of like business that you're dealing with them. But this can also tells me that you might meet somebody in a restaurant, in particular fish restaurant, a restaurant on some kind of like water, on some kind of coast. Fish, pardon, the ship is in the ship house. So when card appears in its own house, right, then it really talks. It's kind of like on basically this big loud speaker telling me that something here we need to absorb. You see, ship has lots of meanings, but what is the most important thing that I'm picking up is that that's the card number 3. We are in year number 3, and this is your thing. That's a positive energy. That's the energy of adventure. It's the energy of foreign travel. but also about long distance, as I told you, and foreigners, right? It could be some kind of transportation, and doesn't necessarily mean kind of like with ship. It could be airplanes, because I really don't think they had airplanes when they kind of created these cards. So the main message here is about journeys, long or short, right? Because the child can also mean that something has been already kind of belonging in the past, just like you had this kind of like right out of the gate talking about the memories, the sweet memories. So this can actually simply talk about reconnecting, but this can also talk about vacation. It can be international travel, kind of like vacation, something like that that I see. It's kind of like a really good business card. It could be just a business trip, right? And it's kind of like those ships coming in, clearly. Some contracts being signed. Maybe this simply talks about work. Maybe you kind of like applying for promotion. Now you really want to go do it, right? But it's kind of like looking also for love and happiness over here. It's kind of like this intention, and it's going to be right out of the gate, right? It's literally, this can talk to me about rebound. So somebody who's doing rebound is also, they are sleeping with the previous partner at the same time, because that partner also has a huge significance, karmic significance, and they might actually have a child together. So this also could mean that this person might be working with this person over here, right? That kind of like there are certain things happening on that end because of it, right? So ship is generally a really good card, right? And where is the rider? So here we have a rider on one side of one significator and this on the other side. So I'm certainly seeing some news we see arriving over here. I like the fact that ship and mice are not together, because they can talk about cancellations, so you don't have it. But again, we are talking about that number of 3 having a huge importance in your life. And that's something, if you're ever thinking about delays, or somebody kind of like hooking up with somebody, or somebody not replying to you, just don't jump to conclusions. Kind of like give some time for things to kind of like resolve. Now, I can see here that somebody is really trying to get promotion at work, really working on it by hook or by the crook. And it could be really a multi-layered situation over here that can involve an ex and a child and a work. It could simply mean that somebody has a business with their ex, or with somebody who is more than business partner. You know how people like to relabel stuff and then don't tell you the truth, right? I like when they say it's a roommate and just like turns out to be a wife, kind of a thing. Oh, don't worry, we don't sleep together, we just sleep in the same bed. Yeah, sure, dude, go away. Because there is like some healing that needs to take place here, and I can definitely see that energy. This person is going to be so freaking irresistible. They're going to be unbelievable dates, unbelievable sex, and really huge love. But you need to understand that you will probably be told about this person something that is not true. This person is really fighting for their own life, for their own survival. Look at the love they actually feel for this person, and actually this person is also kind of like doing the same. On the other hand, as I said, if this is result all of a sudden coming into this lilies, in that kind of like clarity, because this is falling in this garden house. Okay, so now, like this is in a garden house and we have the garden over that. This really talks about that dating, and it talks about it moving forward. Remember what I said, kind of like things will start to work out. And I see it here as well. I see the sun and the moon together. That's a big deal. So you're not getting just half of the deal, you're getting everything. And the bear means that these healthy decisions, if you get to these healthy decisions, or if you're forced into the healthy decisions, either way, it can be something that's going to last a long time. We're talking 10 years, 15 years. And you see, it's kind of like establishing it properly, almost like you like to kind of like move slow and steady. And this is kind of like telling me the Tower really talks about structures, and it could be churches, it could be governments, it could be institutions. It also can indicate tall buildings and towers and lighthouses. I mean, on that side, maybe kind of like, you know, that. It also could be dame in distress, but dame is no longer in distress because we see the key opening the tower, so you can kind of like put your Goldilocks out there and send the messages, because the birds are here, and birds are gossip and messages and communication, and it's something kind of like starting to make sense. There is that anchor. Remember how we saw love? And this is shown in many decks as lovebirds. So it is really, really important to understand, look, we have this key. Somebody is moving forward in a healthier direction, right? Because somebody who appeared to be so important maybe is no longer going to be there, right? And that's kind of like understanding that you have to figure out what you value in a relationship. So this all here seems to be very good. You have the ring, which is the commitment, and again, this more or less to me talks about different type of commitment. It can talk about work commitment, because this is falling in the house of the moon, and this is falling in the house of the fish. So this could be like sort of like maybe a new job that is showing up. It could be also relocation that is showing up, and definitely this newfound either dating or love affairs. Even though they might have their own kind of like things, they're going to be minor, because you're getting the dog in the house of the heart, and they also mirror each other, right? So it is like finally reclaiming what is yours. Like it's finally coming back to you. You know how they say, like, let it go, and if it's yours, it's going to come back. So that's exactly what's happening here. So it's really, really good news, Taurus. So do not hold on to somebody thinking that's your last train, that's your last chance. That's actually your chance to fix your karmic debt. And if you fix it, the good things are going to happen. Okay, so what I want to do right now, I really want to get maybe the most direct kind of like advice, because it was like a full of messages, and I do advise going a few times and checking them out. But if you need to remember one thing from this reading, okay, for me, from my side, soulmate, 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 soulmate. Pick wisely. But let's see what here, this is not my explanation book, this one is. Let's see what that one, actually this is what's clicked from before, what this one card would be. What is the advice for Taurus for 2009 that they really have to keep close to chest? Encouragement. What a lovely, beautiful picture. Okay, what do we see here? This is the very last one. Oh my goodness, it's the very last one. This is what it says. You're receiving a nudge in the right direction. This card tells you that you're being gently encouraged to step into your power, into the dream of your life. New things are out there to be explored, and the nurturing power of the universe is giving you a nudge in the right direction. You will get the help you need and won't be alone in your quest. Every step you take right now is supported by the wisdom of the universe. You are on the right path, so keep going. Isn't this lovely? And again, I see this very soulmate-y, very loving thing. So guys, this is the year where you can give yourself a gift of love, or you can give yourself a gift of upset with somebody who clearly doesn't deserve you. Put yourself first. So my dear Taurus, I really hope you enjoy this, and I really hope the next year you're going to reorder, and in the meantime that you're going to be the one of those people who click likes during my weeklies and monthlies coming up next year. Again, thank you so much on your order, and I wish you wonderful 2019 and happy holidays. All the best. And you of course know that I am and always will love you. All the best, my Taurus.